Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all lives' buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. We have another fantastic guest. All the guests are fantastic, but even more fantastic, this is our first guest in studio, in the new studio. We're still trying to figure out some of the tech stuff, but Coach Josh Lagod, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, let's kick it off here to start. Josh has been a head coach for a number of years, previously at Branham High School on the girls' side. He is the new varsity head coach at Willow Glen High School. So we are happy to make that announcement. Is it even like public right now, or?
I double checked with my athletic director. I said I was coming on Chris's podcast. You know him. He was one of your high school coaches, and he said, we're good to go. So it's official. And having our first meeting next week with some interested players and talking with the families. And you know how it is, getting everything going. The anxiety starts kicking in, just planning for next season.
For sure.
Just today I was already emailing and texting other coaches about potential games and tournaments. But the excitement factor is definitely there, and we're ready to go.
Are you playing us next year?
So we're already in the Del Mar tournament. But I will also play you as well, an individual game if you want.
I haven't told Bill. I don't know if we're coming back to the Del Mar.
Okay. Well, if you are, then yes. I guess right now we're making it official. I would love to play Valley Christian.
We start the show off. I don't know why you haven't been on the show before. I've asked you like 10 times, but I'm glad we get to make it work. Yep. But you know how the show works. Give a fun fact about yourself, something that even if I know you, I might not even know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll go personal here. Very vulnerable. I still have the same teddy bear from when I was 2 days old. He's still in my bedroom with me right now. He's on my bed right now. My brother and dad went out when I was in the hospital with my mom when I was 2 days old. They brought back a teddy bear. His name's Ted. And I brought him with me to the college dorm rooms, and people gave me hard time for it, but he's special to me, and he's still with me to this day.
How did I not know that? What type of shape is Ted in right now?
Ted's got to be beat up. He's been beaten up. Yeah,
that's if my math is right, 37 years of life.
Yeah, 39.
Okay,
39 years.
39 years of life.
Since 2 days old.
Woo!
People think it was like 2 years. Nope. My dad and brother went out. And I don't know if it was just, at the gift shop at the hospital or if they actually went to a store, but the story goes 2 days old, and I've kept him ever since.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you give everybody like a 2-minute backstory on you? I don't think I have anything that sentimental. I'm not that sentimental of a guy. I probably my kids' stuff is probably more sentimental than me, but I don't think I have any traits like that where I just kept something for so long. I'm always trying to get rid of stuff, to be frank. And since we recently moved, I felt like I got rid of a lot of stuff, but then I guess maybe shoes might be my thing.
Shoes are your thing.
I literally got rid of 50 pairs of shoes when we moved, and I still have like hundreds and hundreds of pairs of shoes. So, that's been
something though, childhood on, right? Yeah.
Yep. One of my childhood idols is Deion Sanders. Right. Look good, feel good, play good, pay good.
Yeah.
And so CJ, Can you please take him out, close the door? Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. My dog and my son are jumping on to the podcast. So don't touch anything, buddy. Okay, get out of there. Take the dog, please, and thank you. So we digress. Anyway, so give a 3-minute backstory about yourself and just a little bit of context.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, born and raised San Jose. Grew up with 2 parents in the legal field. My parents met in the public defender's office. And my dad's still a practicing attorney, private attorney. My mom ended her career as a judge, Superior Court judge. She still fills in, but she retired when she hit 70. We were proud of that. I have an older brother whose biggest passion in life was always basketball. He went and played at the D3 level, and I wanted to pursue that as well, football and basketball, though. So I developed a passion for football in high school and ended up going to a Division III school but was going through some personal stuff and ended up coming back. And it's weird how
Grinnell.
things work out. Beloit College in Beloit, Wisconsin.
I thought you went to Grinnell too.
I looked at it.
Gotcha.
And it would have been a really good fit for Ryan with the way that they play.
For sure.
But I scrimmaged them, and I said, "Oh, I don't know if I could hang with these guys. They were good." But Beloit gave me the opportunity. I was planning on playing football and basketball for them, and came back pretty quickly. And then actually Ryan was a senior at Willamette, but he was down for Thanksgiving break, and we were playing basketball at Dorr Park. And our old middle school coach Julie Johnston, was driving by, and she saw us. She got out and she said, "Are you around? Do you want to coach 6th grade boys basketball?" So I was 19, and I said, "Let's do it." So it was interesting. I went from thinking I was going to play for another 4 years, and threw me right into coaching, and I'm really grateful for that. It kind of got me back on my feet, gave me a renewed purpose, got me back around kids, which I'd always known I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. And I didn't know that I would start coaching at such a young age, but ended up staying local, finishing out college at Santa Clara, then went down to USC to get my teaching credential. Moved back up here. I taught at Castellaro Middle School for 11 years, and I was coaching at Branham for 7 of those. And then I decided I wanted to see what admin life looked like. And so I went to Willow Glen Middle School as an assistant principal for 2 years, learned a ton, had a lot of fun, but it wasn't the position for me, at least at that time in my life. And I was grateful that I could go back into the classroom at Willow Glen Middle. And then that opened up the opportunity to then coach at the high school. So next year I'll be teaching middle school, coaching high school, and everything's kind of come full circle, and I'm in a really good spot and grateful for all that.
For sure. So for context, I've known him since I was probably 11 or 12 years old. I'm the same age as his older brother, and Ryan and I, we used to play together. We used to compete against one another. We would go to the Lagod household every Friday night, and we would play basketball in the backyard, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, have pizza and a movie night. That was pretty much like every night. Josh kind of stayed away most of the time, but would peek his head out every now and again. I think you were much shyer at that point in time, but we're only three years older than you.
Yeah.
I guess what felt like we were just so much more older than you.
Yeah.
And so now I feel old because you're 39 years old now. But I had a lot of fond memories. Your parents were great people. They really opened their house. And so, for me and Maddie as the parents now, we think that's like the coolest thing, where you can kind of open your house to all of the friends, and they find out so much information about the entire group. When you're just around. Just like when you're a teacher on campus, you just find out information by just walking by certain circles in the way that people talk, or who's the leader, or what's going on in the community. You kind of just have a whole lay of the land just because you're on campus. I remember when I first got to Valley, I wasn't on campus for the first 2 years, but I just got so much more information on just the environment and the temperature of the entire room, the entire school, just because you were there. And so as parents, we want to do that. We want to open our house to all of our kids' friends and get to know their families, because that's kind of how you are able to just be tapped in with regard to everything that's going on. So I think that was very important, and I'm really grateful for your parents to be able to do that. And we still are able to, I would say, we're friends with your parents now, and able to go during holidays and hang out and talk and just seek advice. So 2 very well-rounded people. They didn't have any cable when we were growing up.
Lots of books.
And they just had nothing but books. And I was just astonished because I had never seen books like that. And to find out that your parents had read every single one of those books was just truly amazing.
My mom's a speed reader, so she can go through books like crazy. I'm more like my dad. We annotate the books and underline, and then we talk about it. But we got HBO when you and Ryan were going into maybe junior or senior year. So I was just starting off high school. We had HBO. That was it. We had always had ESPN. That was big. But there were definitely times in elementary, middle school where Nickelodeon was big.
Yep.
And Ryan and we had to either go to a friend's house to watch it, or we just had to hear about it the next day at school. But
Yep.
you look back and you think, now seeing the trajectory of cell phones and tablets, I think my parents were onto something early.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And but we always had the backyard. That was the saving grace.
Right.
So, and I think my parents made a big push with Ryan and with me to tell our friends, bring them over. Anybody and everybody's always welcome.
Yep.
And like you said, at the school too, it's fun to see kids. I think we get focused as a teacher. Sometimes I only see my students as my students for an hour or two a day.
Yep.
And we lose the big picture on who they are as people. And it's fascinating to see a kid who's really quiet in class, and then you see them at lunch and they're the center of attention with their friend group, or they're out there being a stud athlete, and you get a bigger picture of the person. And then I think as coaches, when we do team bondings or if families open their homes up and we just get to talk to the kids and learn about them, because we're so hyper focused on basketball during the season that we lose focus on the kid as a whole kid. And it's natural to do because you want to win those games, but developing those relationships, I think they'll really run through walls for a coach who really knows them and cares about them as an overall person. And then I'm having the same benefit you've had of coaching for so long, is that now some of our former players are helping us coach.
100%.
And just seeing that and seeing them as adults and talking to them on a different level and really starting to develop friendships with them on a different level and seeing
100%.
the paths that they're taking in life, because playing basketball is going to end for everybody at some point. For me, it ended up being my freshman year of college. And for some people, it might be after a long professional career, but there has to be something after it.
Yep.
And a lot of our players are finding out that they can have their paths wherever they want, but a lot of them get pulled back to basketball.
100%. Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I'm actually a very present father and a present husband is because I coach basketball. Because so much, and I was just literally talking to my wife about this yesterday, was I spend so much time away from them that when I am there, I want to make sure that I am fully present and in that moment. And then so I have other friends, or we have other friends that are not coaching basketball. And so their wives might be complaining to my wife about them not being present. She asked me yesterday, like, why are you not watching all the NCAA games when we went to Disneyland as a family? Because this is the most important thing to me. Yeah. At one point, that was very important to me, but I have this thing that takes me away almost every evening. And this is the time that I need to spend with you guys. And so people that don't have that will focus their time, energy, and effort towards those Sunday football games. I know some of my friends, they don't do anything on Sundays but watch football.
Yep.
I can't do that anymore. Yeah. I'd rather go watch my own son play football or be with my daughter at soccer rather than watch somebody else play that I have really no affiliation, as I'm wearing San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, I love the 49ers, but at the end of the day, they're not more important than watching my own kids or watching my own, family grow. And then also on top of that, we have former players, like you said, and they do become friends, and it's a weird dynamic because they are adults now. They've graduated college and they come back to help out. And they find out how difficult our job actually is. And they were, Fallon and Caitlin, Caitlin, I think you coached her when she was in middle school. They were shocked to see all that actually goes into it. And they're like, after our last game in NorCal, we're just kind of sitting in the locker room. We spent about 30 minutes just together, just kind of decompressing from just a long season, 199 days and 29 weeks of basketball, and we just kind of sat there and decompressed. That was one of my favorite moments I've ever had as a head coach, just seeing 3 former players that were in that locker room with me, that went through all the battles together when they played. I probably coached them, 120 games each, which is insane to say. And they just spent a 30-game season as an assistant coach. What a rewarding feeling, because it was difficult and it is hard when you're in a basketball program, but for them to come back, it just really says a lot that you're actually doing the right thing.
It's because I think what they see is they get older, and whether they go to college or join the military and just go straight into the workforce, the older they get, the more experiences they have. And a lot of them, I think the ones who reach back out to us, they realize that not even though we were hard on them, because we were hard on them, we cared about them.
Right.
And then they realize the work it puts in, the work that it takes to be successful and to continuously be successful, and not always wins and losses, but just to have a good culture and a good program. I mean, the first thing I ask when former players will say they're getting into coaching, I always say, let me know when you get your first email from a parent, because that will come, and just let me know and let me read it if you want to. And then my biggest advice is sit on it for 24 to 48 hours.
Right.
And then they'll ask you, they'll go, did you get those? I said, oh yeah. And we still get them. We still get them. And it doesn't matter how many wins or losses you have.
Nope.
If people have an axe to grind, then they're going to take it out on the head coach.
Yep. And
you don't want your players always to know all the stuff that goes on. You want them to just play free and also realize that they're still high school kids. Right. I end every basketball practice. I end it with my middle schoolers now through Top Flight. I say, you have homework to do tonight. Thank all the adults in your lives. And because they're dedicating a lot of time, money, effort, and a lot of them have more than just one kid.
Yep.
And then with the high schoolers, I would tell them, many of whom at the varsity level, they're driving home. So I would say, hey, forget about basketball, drive safely, and go be a kid.
Right.
Because I think if you give the most effort and energy you can for the 2 hours, 3 hours that you're there, then you have to be able to kind of forget about it. But as coaches, we know we don't forget about it very, very quickly. So you've probably, as a father and a husband, you've been able to compartmentalize better. Have you felt that differently from when you didn't have kids? Would a game stick with you even longer?
Oh, 100%. Because that was your singular focus.
Yeah.
It was only to try to get this victory or, get a little bit better and things like that. But you can't, when you have other people that are depending on you, you can't stick that with them.
Right.
Like, it's not fair to them. If you lose a basketball game, at the end of the day, nobody really cares. If you lose a championship, nobody really cares. And honestly, we're the only ones that really care about and we're the ones that take it with us. And that's one of the reasons why, there is a lot of coach burnout, because you can't take that stuff with you and it just over and over. And then, there are circumstances that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with disgruntled or unhappy parents. You're going to have to deal with disgruntled or unhappy players. But hopefully they know that it's coming from a place of love. And that's why when you get old, like my mom and my parents or grandparents or whoever, was helping raise you. Like we just had a professional development, and our baseball coach was talking about, like, if you have to go against a bear and you have never prepared them to fight a bear, then they're not going to be equipped to be able to, when that bear actually comes in front of them.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to do anything against that bear. So you're going to have to coach hard. It doesn't mean that you're demeaning, but you have to require a lot out of these kids. And I think that's one of the things that I want to even get better at. And sometimes I let stuff slide because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Because I have children and I want everybody to, have a good experience in this. And this is something that I struggled with throughout the full season. There are times where I can really, put my foot on the gas, and there are other times where I kind of let them slide. And my mom didn't let me slide.
Right.
And if you want to be first of all, like, you have to look at it like this. Everybody wants their kids to thrive. Everybody wants their kids to work hard. Everybody wants to have their kids to have a work ethic. Everybody wants them to be able to go through something difficult and get past that. Because if you just give your kids candy every single day, well, their teeth are going to rot. They're not going to be in the shape that they need to live a long, healthy life. You're setting them up for failure. And that's one of the things that I want to consistently do every time. It doesn't mean you yell and you scream, but you have to correct that behavior, or you're going to you're gonna be put in a situation where they're not ready for it. And most of the stuff that we're trying to do is help them in life.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get to college, and it's really difficult, like when you were in college and you went through some certain things, I went through some certain things when I went up to college and it was raining every single day up there.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave. I didn't leave.
Yeah.
I showed up the next day. I showed up every single day. I made sure I got through all the difficult things, the 5 a.m. wake ups to go work out when our strength coach wants us there at 4:45 a.m. Like that stuff is hard. And going through a high school basketball program is hard and it's difficult, but it makes you so much more well-rounded when you get past it. And everybody that has went through it and got through it, they are much better people now than they were if they didn't.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I want to continue with my coaching as I continue coaching.
I learned a ton about family dynamics when I was an assistant principal because I had the task of being the disciplinarian a lot of the time. And sometimes that means out of school suspensions, which is a really hard thing for families to hear.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I ended up realizing it wasn't for me, because I went into education and coaching to get kids to school. And I always took pride in having some challenging students in my classrooms and really not having those power struggles that I think other people had. And I wasn't able to do the relationship building as much because there's 1,200 students at the school and there's just one of me, and a classroom is very different than an entire campus. But then I found there were 3 reactions that families had. One, they completely disagreed with you and they, just called you everything under the sun. 2, and this was I was most thankful when this happened, when the parent would hear it, they would take it and they'd say, oh yeah, I agree. Like that would be a 1-day suspension from my perspective as well, because then you're on the same level with the families and then you can really move past it. Then the trickiest one of all was actually the parents who thought that we should have been more punitive. And you could just tell that as soon as they walked into my office, they were just going to ream their kid. And to a certain extent, you understood it, because I'm not a parent, but I can imagine if I got a call that my nephews were suspended from school, there are going to be a lot of emotions going on. And I would actually have to talk to some parents and say, hey, this is a one-time mistake. Like, let's look at, your kid's never been in my office before, but they did make a mistake. It's a 1-day suspension, but hopefully we're all on board that when that consequence is paid, it's a brand new day when the kid comes back. And I think a lot of successful coaches and teachers, parents, they're able to issue the consequence, the kid has the consequence, and then you move forward.
Right.
And there's no ill will or anything lingering. And that's something that we would talk with the teachers. And as a teacher, I have to keep in mind, because then you have to see the kid the next day and you're still charged. And you have to tell yourself, first off, for me, it's like, this kid's 12, right? Let's always keep that in mind. This kid is 12. The oldest that we've ever coached, 18, that's still really young.
Yep.
Right. So what they can process and what they can handle is different than what we can. And then it's just it's a brand new day. It's a new page every day. And if we expect the kids to be able to come back and work hard and be part of the community again, we have to give them that grace. Yep. And that welcome when they come back.
Yep. And it's interesting you said that, because you said 3 different type of parents. I think you see that in your basketball programs as well.
Oh yeah.
The one parent who's never going to see it the way that you see it, because as a coach, you have to see it for all 12 or 15 players, and you have to get everybody headed in this one direction. But as a parent, and I know this specifically with sports, like, you really only care about what your child is doing.
Of course.
You don't really care about everybody else's kid. Yeah, you want them to have success and do well, but when my kid is up to bat, I want them to get a hit.
Yeah.
And if they strike out, I don't want them to strike out,
right.
But striking out is necessary sometimes, and that's okay. But you're going to have the one group that never sees it your way, and that's okay. Then you're going to have the group that kind of can understand the reasoning why your kid was in or wasn't in. And then there's going to be like Caitlin's mom, Kathy, she wants you to be harder.
Right.
Like she would you need to go harder. You need to yell at my daughter. You need to do this sort of stuff. Ooh. And so you have to be able to handle all three of those components in a way. And like you said, you just got to do it. You really have to handle it with care, and it's really the relationship piece. And if your relationship is good, then, any one of those three situations are, less hard. They're still difficult. They're
manageable.
But, if the relationships are not in place, and that's one of those things, it's like, dang, you have to really invest so much time, and there's just not really enough time to be able to do all that stuff. Right. There's not enough time to develop like a high-end relationship with every parent, every family, and every player. It's just, I think it's almost impossible to be able to do that. You could be very intentional, but I just don't think you can have. Maybe I'm wrong. I would like to think that I am wrong, but doing it for so long, you're just not going to be able to hit everybody and just have a good relationship with everybody.
Right. And one thing I learned in grad school when I was studying to get my admin credential, the head professor, he had been Manny Barbera. He's amazing. He had been principal, he'd been superintendent in Oak Grove. And he said, never let people get you on your policy and your procedure. If they disagree with your personality, then that's on them. Mm. And then he fleshed it out. And I use that a lot with suspension.
Explain that in basketball terms.
Yeah, basketball terms. So I think it's if you have it in your contract that if your kid is late to practice the day before a game, your kid doesn't play, or your kid misses the first quarter. Yes. Even if they don't like you personally, or they don't like your style of coaching, your personality, they can't argue the policy and the procedure because it's in place. And I think people in general, but kids specifically, they actually thrive on structure.
Of course, you have to, yeah.
Right. And you have to have a structure. That's why we don't just roll the balls out at practice and say, hey, you have 17 minutes to do whatever you want. Like every minute is structured. And when you put it in paper, and then I've become, my first year at Branham, I did not have a contract. And it came to bite me because not everything was written down. And now my contract is carefully worded. And I also say it when I have parent meetings, and I reiterate to the students. Our friend Bill Murray actually has his kids. They have to have a consequence, but he actually allows them to talk about what they want it to be. And then he can override it or, set whatever he wants. But I thought that was an interesting take. So if you miss practice, the practice before a game, you sit the first half. But as long as it's in paper and everybody knows the expectations, and then you hold them to those standards, then they might, quote unquote, dislike you as a person, but they can't get you on your expectations. So if you're clear and you follow through, which is hard because a kid who never runs late that one day because of traffic or whatever comes up, that's a tough call to make.
Right. And the hard part is a lot of the kids don't drive, Yeah. And so, I would just say, I've kind of been a little bit more lax on that sort of stuff because none of the kids that we see, you have all neighborhood kids. We have kids that come from all over, from Gilroy, Morgan Hill, Campbell, Saratoga, Hayward, even. Yeah. And so it's a little bit different. So you guys, if you know you're going to be late, like I'll give you some grace if you text me. Like you're not texting me 5 minutes before. Correct. You text me and the staff. 15. Hey, coach, I might be. Right. Okay. That's what I would tell my wife. Hey, I might be a little bit late. Right. So you give yourself, but if you show up on time, great. But it's just, And when parents are driving and dropping off, but those are the things. And, then you have to, like, if somebody's 1 minute late, is at the end of the world. You have to figure out in your philosophy, like, is that important to me, or is the communication, the process in which they let us know they are going to be late?
Right. And is it a legit reason? If a kid is taking a test, they went to a family wedding or a funeral and they missed the test on Friday, they have to take it after school on Monday and they're late to practice, I don't consider that late. Yeah. But if it's because you overslept, Yeah, that's late. So you put it in writing, but then I think there is a human component to it as well. And that's the stuff that I think it was Kirby Smart at Georgia. He's the head coach, right? Football. I think he said being a head coach, one of the biggest things is you have to make a lot of decisions that people have no idea the thought process behind it, and you will never have a chance to defend yourself.
Never.
And you just, if you're going to be a head coach, you have to accept that.
Right.
And so it's interesting, kind of tying it back to our players coming back. They're starting to see that as coaches. They're like, I didn't even know you had to have these conversations with your athletic director or the other coach or the ref or my parents. Because my parents, they never spoke to the coaches other than to say, thank you, good game, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and and truth be told, your parents might not have liked some of the coaches that we had.
Yeah, and it just didn't.
But it was never really a discussion.
I was brought up, and I'm really good friends. Coach Ochoa, shout out to you if you watch this. I'm really good friends with my former high school coach. He brought me up as a sophomore on varsity, and I barely played, and I was upset the entire season. And I would go home after practice and games, and my parents would say, "Okay, what's your plan?" And I don't think I think I could tell by their tone. I knew that they were not part of that plan because they were never going to talk to him about playing time.
Right.
They said, you either continue playing and work hard, you can talk with him, see where you can improve, or you don't play. Right. I mean, that is an option, but I don't think a lot of families even see that as a potential option. Like, and I have it in my contract that I'm starting to write out. Being a student is a privilege. Being a student is a right. Being a basketball player is a privilege. And that's the difference. So if a parent emails me as a teacher, I'll reach out. That's what I was going to
say about our conversation down in Orange County over the summer. But we'll leave that.
Oh, we could go.
I don't really want to talk about that at this point in time. But
that's true, though. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think.
Yes.
Okay.
So that Eshoff actually said that to us after. I was like, dude, you were so quiet. He didn't want to jump in. I said, what would you have said? And he said, it is a privilege to play basketball, and that is not a right to be able to do that. So that was, but we can talk about that offline. But it is interesting. But we are in the day and age where everybody does have a voice. Back then, there wasn't these echo chambers, and you couldn't really voice your opinions or whatever the case may be, because it was just a different time. Yeah. Like your brother transferred to Del Mar from Midi, and I was just slotted as the starting 2 guard. Yeah. And he came in and he was better than me at that time. Now. But he never beat me in one-on-one. That is a fact. He never beat me in one-on-one, but as our team was constructed, he wasn't better than me on defense, but he could do the one thing that most of us could not do really well at a high level at that point, and he was a lights out shooter. Yeah. I can say as a man that he was better than me. I didn't like the fact that, and he was still my boy and all that, and I tried to go out and practice every single day, but I came off the bench. Jeremy was slated to start too. He came off the bench. Rodney came off the bench. We had really good players. We had 5 starters that basically came off the bench. But like I had to eat that, and I had to work really hard to try to earn my spot back, and I didn't get it back. Because he was just better at that time. And a lot of people don't have that self-awareness anymore. Right. And the same thing goes when it comes to, parents, like we've been talking about. They don't have that self-awareness that your kid doesn't. First of all, every kid on the team, they work hard. There is no kid on the team that does not work hard. Right. If they don't work hard, they're definitely not going to be rewarded for being in the game. But there are levels to it. Yep. I worked just as hard as Ryan. He was just a little bit better than me at that time. Yep. And the coach had to go with the better option at the time. Did I hate it? Yeah. I hated it. I didn't like coach all the time when that happened. Like, of course, it is what it is, but I didn't complain. I worked every single day to try to earn my opportunities and my minutes. And
you had to make a decision, though. You could have said, okay, I'm just going to focus on football and baseball then. I mean, you did have an option to not play your senior year.
But that wasn't an option.
Exactly. In your mind, because you decided, no, I'm not going to cut out on this because it got hard.
100%.
And some people do, and
none of us did in that generation. Right. So that's like Rodney didn't, Jeremy didn't, Stephen Belton didn't, all of us, Viet didn't, all of us. we didn't stop when it got really difficult or hard, and we got 2 really high level transfers.
Yeah.
And we won a whole lot, and that was what it was all about.
Yeah.
The team. It was about the team, and if this is the best thing for the team, like, it is what it is.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
The thing that I would ask you is, what are you going to do differently now, being that, you've taken some time off from coaching and now you're getting back into it?
Yeah.
What are some of those things that you're looking to actually, like, this is what I want to do differently moving forward? And I will say this, we go into the season, we got all these really great ideas, and then we get to the middle of the season, it's like, I got to go back to some things that I used to do. But yeah, so what is the new stuff that you plan on doing just with regard to team dynamics?
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely planning on, I would like to see, I was just watching before I got here, Tennessee taking on, I think it's Ohio State on the women's side. And the Tennessee coach is subbing in like hockey. And I would love to be able to do that at a public school. It can be tough to get 10 who you really think can positively impact the game on a consistent time, right? Consistent level and basis. But I would like to try and find players who, when I was coaching before, who may have been on the bench almost the whole game, try and find something maybe where they could get in for a minute or two and just say, you're just going to pick up full court for a minute. This might be the only minute you get, but we need you for this minute. And I would like to potentially, if you have the ability to do it, to have, it's almost like football with different defensive packages in a sense like this. We put this 5 in together and they can pick up full court for even 90 seconds. And then maybe they get subbed out. And then the other, it's your best 5 is who you're going to play to make you most competitive. But throughout 32 minutes, there may be some times when you could stick some players in there who maybe only get a couple minutes a game, but they can thrive for those couple minutes. So that's something I'm toying with.
What about in our league?
In your league?
Yes.
No. Well, if you have 10 who can positively impact the game, then yeah. But if you have 6, but then the hard part is, so I've played it. I remember times at Branham where an entire half I played 5 players.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're using your timeout strategically just to get them some rest. But that also means you better have been conditioning in practice as well. So a lot of your drills need to be up and down the court.
Yep.
Right. And we did it because it was what was best for the team. But would I have liked to put more players in? Yeah, I would have, just because I think it's better overall for team dynamics if more people get on the court.
I agree with that.
I also think it's just better for the kids so they don't have to go for 16 straight minutes, because even though they're young, it's still 16 minutes is a long time to play straight.
Yes.
Right. And if you're playing at a fast pace, but if you don't have the horses for it, then you can't do it. You got to ride with who's.
Well, the problem is we live and die with 6 possessions, basically.
Right.
The 12 point and the 12 points and under games, those are the ones that really change your record.
Yeah. Because
if you can win those 6 possession games, your record basically flips. It can go from, you can go from 20-5 to, to 10 and 15,
and
15.
And you look like a markedly different team when you're really, it's 3 or 4 possessions. And then our good friend Ryan Cooper was saying he sometimes doesn't even count it in possessions, just time of a game. If there's a 3 to 5 minute momentum switch in a game, you can either be cruising to a win or you're just you're hanging on for dear life. So that's the hardest part. What I found the hardest part is when to use your timeouts and when to make substitutions.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we have to be really intentional about, because I've done some in the first quarter when you're really frustrated and you call a full timeout and you're like, I didn't need that full timeout right now. I'd really like to have that in the bag.
Yep.
Mark Pope, the coach at Kentucky, I heard him. He says he doesn't call timeouts based on the score. He calls it based on how he feels his team is playing. Right. And I thought that was an interesting.
That's how I do. I'm a feel person.
Yeah. So that was, if you're down 6-0, but you've just missed some open shots and the other team, made late, shot clock and they kind of hit some threes, there's no need to call a timeout. Even if you're up though, 6-4 and you feel you need to kind of recharge them, you can call a quick one. So,
but I mean, to push back a little bit on that. Number one, well, first of all, high school is much different.
Yeah.
But college, just think about how Gino has always played like 7 players.
Yeah.
Even the NBA, when you get into the playoffs, even Boston, they might have a 10-person rotation, but 7, 8, 9, and 10 aren't playing a whole lot.
No.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to be the guys that are in there for 48 minutes. And so there's a couple guys that come off the bench that might spell them for those 8 minutes that they're not in the game. But yeah, we tried to, and I don't do the subs. I let my assistant do it because he does a really good job and he's got a good feel for it.
Yeah.
We did try to get most people in the game and most of the games, and specifically in the first half was something that we really tried to do. And some people liked it, of course. And some people were like, well, why do you have to play everybody? Right. And it's just like one of those tough things. Jules came on the show and talked about one of the things that she would do differently is play everybody, even if it is 1 minute.
Yeah.
But then I also look at it like sometimes if I got some quote unquote garbage minutes, like I didn't want it.
That's the flip side because
don't put me in at the end of the game when I've been sitting here all day, all game.
Yeah,
I'm happy for my friend and all that. But at the end of the day, if I had to get garbage minutes, like I don't know if I really want those.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like, I don't know. For me, yeah, I don't know.
I would rather not play at all than play the last 20 seconds of a game just to get someone out so they get a standing ovation. And yet at the same time, you do it because you want to be a good teammate. And, their garbage minutes are tough, right? Because I had that talk with some. I've asked players. I said, hey, would you rather sit or do you want to get in for the next 2 minutes when we're down or up by 20 or 30? And some, they want to get on the court. Cool. They're just going to run around and go as hard as they can. And then others like, no, like I get what I was tonight. This was my role tonight. It could be different, the next game. But so that's something I'm pushing towards. But if they can't make a positive impact on the game in that night, then like we talked before, it is a privilege to get on the court, but you have to be very intentional with how you're telling players that. And then when it gets down to tight games, the practice before a tight game or a CCS game, I've told all the players, not everybody's going to run through the same. You're not going to get the same amount of touches in practice because I know these 8 players are going to be running more on the court tomorrow night and they have to get more reps. You might be a defensive player today.
But that's being a part of something bigger than yourself and being a part of a team. Right. When you look at a team dynamic, that practice player is actually very, very important. When I would go against your brother, I would take a lot of pride in shutting him down.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I give him the best look possible, they ain't going to be really as honed in as I am.
Right.
On the defensive side. Yeah, they're going to shooter, all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, like I'm locking this up.
Yeah.
And I'm showing them like, I got this.
And you're making practice harder than the game.
And you're going to be better because of it. And our team is going to be better because of that. And I think that it's hard for people to take pride in something like that because it's not seen. But everybody knows. Even like the assistant coaches on the team are some of the most impactful people on the team and in the program. Same with those players that go, like we had a couple, like three players that just gave everything. Didn't play a whole lot, didn't complain, just came and gave every single ounce of energy that they had. And nobody would even know.
Right.
But you have to try to recognize them and say, hey, our point guard is doing really good because you give her a great look in practice every single day. And that's a selfless thing. And we live in a selfish, me-centered world. Yeah. But I would love for more people to take that approach and try to motivate that type of approach. That's something that I really want to do a lot better job of. It's like, man, this is important.
Right.
And the other thing is kids don't really look how kids come to school now.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
I when I came to school, I used to like the way I dressed.
Right.
And it's not old man, get off your lawn. Because I'm still, I still got it like that. But I want to understand them a little bit more. To like, why do you just wear really, really baggy stuff and Crocs every single day?
Right.
But that's the way they come. But how can we figure out like, hey, what is that carrot for them to be like, oh yeah, this is like really, really important to me.
I talk about that a lot in my classroom with body language. And I said, hey, if you're tired, I get it. But so they're free. The students in my class, they can get up and walk around and stretch whenever they want.
Good for you.
You know, I just say, hey, even if I'm talking, you can get up. If that's going to keep you awake, you get up, do it. That's not disrespectful. But the second you put your head down or you slouch back, you're automatically going to become more tired. And like, let's take some pride in, you know, how we look and how we act. And I think they get it. They're young. And if they're not, you know, you're at home and you're just lounging on the couch, that's one thing. And so I think we don't know them as people a ton of the time, especially on the first couple of weeks of school. We can make a quick judgment, oh, this kid's lazy. And then you learn out, no, the kid has sleep apnea. Like, this kid's just tired, right? Something like that. Or the kid has asthma and the kid can't breathe, so he's not going to be doing his work. So it takes time. I still get frustrated, but I do, you know, if you tell the kids, hey, I think you give them some room to be themselves too. And then my kids, they really want to chew gum on campus. It's one of my pet peeves. It ends up on the ground, and I've stepped on gum in my classroom, but I said, you know what? I'm going to meet you halfway, and hopefully your families can contribute too. So I bring in mints, and they can come. And I said, because I get it, chewing gum might keep you awake. You like the taste. Here's a mint, because even if that falls on the ground, we can pick it up and throw it away. So and some people, they probably could say, oh, you're soft or you're giving them, but it's like, well, my end result is that I want them not to chew the gum and do the work. So if they're have the mint in their mouths and they're doing the work, then I'm like, I don't care if anybody thinks that I'm giving them too much, you know, leniency. I got the end result that I wanted. So I think we do need to meet. What I found is the old school way of it's completely my way or the highway. You're just turning off a lot of potential compromise that you can have.
Yep. No, you know? I agree. Man, especially with the captains, or leaders on the team, giving them a lot of autonomy. Hey, what do you think first segment, what should we do today? Yeah. Where you give them more autonomy and things like that, because you need to get a pulse of the group. Yeah. That's very, very important. And yeah, just the whole, and, you know, breaking down walls and barriers with some fun stuff. Yeah. You know, play dodgeball before practice or something like that. We had one of our other staff members, PE teacher, come in and do like cooperative games. Yeah. I had never seen them so happy and joyous throughout the season, because the kids now, they don't, and I've seen this in a lot of programs, you know, they just don't smile a lot. Right. They just kind of walk in, and sometimes it's very, I've always been a good people reader and body language and stuff like that, and it's really difficult to read them sometimes. Yeah. Like they come in and sometimes they don't even speak. You're like, hey, how are you? Yeah,
walk right by you.
Hey, what's up? Give me a fist bump. Yeah. Oh, okay. But you never know what is going on in their everyday life. Like, how hard was it to get to practice today? You know, and they just have so much more stuff that is going on. Yeah. You know, they have regular stuff that people used to deal with, and it's at such a heightened rate with social media. I mean, my goodness, just in Disneyland. Yeah. There was 4 teenagers. We were walking, and literally all 4 of them were on their phone. I'm like, look at this. Yeah. They're in Disneyland. Right. They're sitting down on a bench with their phone in their hand, and all of them were on the phone, not interacting. No. They were just head down. And
I'm really glad I'm not a teenager right now. Yeah. I look back and it's funny too, because I think the older we get, sometimes I'll even find myself saying, oh, kids are so different these days. And I think about it, I go, developmentally, they're not, right? I mean, their brains are the same as they've always been for however, you know, thousands of years. but they have access to more. And we had access to more than our parents did and their parent, right? And it just, you look back, I mean, just the TV then turned into computers, which turned into tablets, and now it's cell phones. And I talk about it a lot with other teachers, and I say I loved it when we were kids, wherever you were, that was all you were focused on. If you were at the park with your friend, you were just at the park with your friend, and you weren't thinking, I have to post this to tell anybody, or you weren't worried where anybody else was because you didn't know.
And they have everybody's location.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing to me. Like, I don't want people that I don't really know or care about to know where I'm at. There's only one person that has my location. That's my wife.
Right.
And
so it's
I only have one person.
Yeah.
But even our assistant coaches, because they're younger.
Right.
How many locations you have? I'm like, 33. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's crazy to me. But,
and that was a big thing. One of the hardest things to combat when I was an admin was cyberbullying. When you looked at if there was ever an altercation on campus, the first question I asked was, who posted what? And 90% of the time, somebody had written something at some point. The hardest part, even that, was the group chats. Because you can't figure out whose they are. Then they have burner accounts, and you really just want to get the kids with a couple dodgeballs and say, just go play dodgeball for a half hour and just be a kid, So I do think that, I mean, I have a no phone policy in basketball too. Phones are in the bed. Don't check your phone at water breaks. Like, we are locked in for 90 minutes to 2 hours, and this is our space. And then after that, if you're on your phone, but I think with you and my brother and my sister-in-law and Maddie, you're seeing it as younger parents, and you're prohibiting, and you already have a plan of like cell phone usage, because in the beginning, and I really don't think it was parents' faults, they just didn't see where this was going to go, because they had a cell phone and they didn't have any instructions on it, and they just gave their kid a cell phone, and then it turned into this huge mess. So our school has a really strict no cell phone policy. And then we've even cut back
they don't have cell phones at the whole school?
I mean, they have them often in their backpacks. Can't even have them in their pockets.
You guys take them?
We take them.
Got it.
They get them back after the first time. The second time, a parent or guardian has to come pick it up. The third time, they're on a contract. And we've seen a huge decrease in it. And then they used to be able to use their Chromebooks at breaks and lunch when they were inside. And we took that away too. And we've seen a drastic increase in the amount of books checked out at the library. So I open my classroom a lot at lunch and let kids hang out, and they're all just talking. They're bringing cards. They do the squid game one where they throw it down on the ground and try and flip it over. They do the squid, but they're being active and they're having fun, and they're just being kids, which is fun. Yeah,
we don't give a they don't have a tablet, or definitely not a phone, and they won't have it for a long time.
Right.
The only time they have school, they do some stuff in school, which is what it is. But they know how to operate it. And but when we go to dinner or something, they don't get the phone, they don't get a tablet. They just have to sit there, and sometimes it's an arduous thing for us as parents to sit there and let them be bored. But that's just what it is. We don't want to poison their minds so early that they need this thing, because it is addictive. And even parents, I mean, I try to be on my phone 3 hours or less a day of my screen time. And
it's hard.
I've been able to do that for most times. And I try to limit myself on social media and things like that.
I did one time last year. It was just a tough day. And I went home and I was trying to figure out why it was harder than other days. And I said, man, I feel like I was on my phone a lot. And I looked and I counted. I was on 30 separate either group text or individual text in one school day. And I said, that's not normal.
No.
I mean, the amount of the loss of social human face-to-face interaction, it's faster and it's easier. And did I text teachers, hey, can you send me so-and-so? I need to talk to them. Yeah, I did. But now the teacher is looking at their phone, and the kids are told you can't look at your phone. So as parents and just adults, we have to try and model it. So when I'm at basketball practice, I check maybe my phone for the time, but not even, I put it away. And it's joyous for me to not be attached to it. Right.
I mean,
So
when you're a parent, sometimes you have to have it on you. But
Yeah,
I
of
don't have
course.
an Apple Watch anymore. I
Right.
had an Apple Watch a while ago, but
yeah, I
I
took
don't want
mine
that
off
thing
too.
buzzing
Yeah,
on my wrist all the time.
I took mine off too for that same reason. I felt I was too connected because it's funny. You think it'll make you less dependent on your phone, but then it's just another mechanism to get you distracted from
Yeah.
being present.
I think you told me this that you did is don't listen to anything in the car.
I used to do that. I used to sit in silence. Yeah. I mean, I still do sometimes, and I'll find out it'll be 10, 15 minutes and I'm just kind of lost in my thoughts. And that's a nice place to be sometimes too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you find out that you landed at your location.
Yeah. And you didn't even know you were there.
that nobody else has.
Right.
Yeah. That location thing is it's just really weird to me.
Nobody has mine. Yeah. Someone said it was recently when someone was like, "Oh, you can send me your location."
I mean, I would probably give it to your parents. And so
I'm traveling somewhere. Yeah. My dad wouldn't be able to figure out.
Well, I mean, just in case, something were to happen,
Yeah.
At least your brother and your parents might have it. But,
that's true.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's just, but see, the thing is, we can't look at all this stuff and be like, no, it's not supposed to be this way. This is what it is. We have to find solutions to meet these kids wherever they're at, meet parents wherever they're at, and be able to have open dialogue that allows them to share their perspective, but also you to have a firm stance on certain things too.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of the rubber meets the road, because I don't understand the kids and their mentality now.
Right.
But I want to understand.
Yeah.
And that's a place that I think a lot of coaches need to try to find themselves. And if you guys have answers, please let us know.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing specifically that will really help that? But what do you think you're going to do to bridge some of these gaps?
I mean, I took it from you. I think you were the first one who told me about like playing music when they're doing like shooting or warm-ups and you're not directly coaching them. You want to put music on? Let's put music on.
Yeah.
I mean, we never listened to music during our practices in high school. That just wasn't.
I mean, we almost keep the music on the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, but if it keeps them engaged, and we're in a world where they need to be engaged. And I mean, kids are listening to music while they're studying now. People are listening to music all the time, or podcasts. So I think let's do that, right? If the kids really want a certain color, like I'll do a Google form and ask the kids what color warm up they want. And if it's a crazy color that I think looks terrible, if they want it, let's do it. Or a t-shirt that they can walk around campus with. So it's the things for me that if they don't compromise your morals and your expectations of, what you know to be right and wrong and where you need to steer kids just because they don't know better yet, then let's do it. So I think that's one of them.
We made the kids do scouting reports this year.
Oh, that's cool. So you gave them game film.
Okay, we have 12 players. We're going to group you guys in 4. They have all the film. And so the coaches still did it. We still had the scouting report, but we had never seen so much attention to detail. All 4 of them do it. They present it to the whole group. And we were giving them more. So, like, I'll tell you a couple of things that we did this year. But one was that we give them more ownership of what was going on, because we would do these scouts and we would go over the scout, and then number 3 hits 5 threes, and you're like, we went over that.
Right.
You're telling the people on the bench that we went over that.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I'm going to correct too.
And you're telling everybody on the bench, what is she doing? Well, we obviously didn't do a good enough job in our scout. But we told them, you guys are doing the scouts from here on out. It was probably like midway through league. And then they started really so they knew what these girls' tendencies were and who could do what. So that was actually a really good thing. And then our manager, who would dress for the games, but she didn't play hardly ever. She came to practice every day. You are our halftime liaison. You got the pen. So instead of us coming in, telling them what we need to do differently, we gave them 2.5, 3 minutes. She popped up on the board, wrote 3 things on offense, 3 things on defense, And it's all pretty much the same stuff that we would say.
Yeah.
Offense, we got to move the ball. We got to,
Yeah.
we have to
Protect the ball. Yeah.
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 Our defense, we got to guard the three. We got to close out. We got to box out. We got to run, whatever
Yeah.
the three things are. And most of the time, these are three. Okay. Yep. We quickly touch on that. And then Eshov was really good at this, where we would just ask them, all right, what do you think after the game? What do you think after the game? The coach wouldn't speak, and we just keep it moving. So anytime that we can give them more ownership, hey, what uniforms do you guys want to wear? Because we have, a lot of uniforms.
Yeah.
We just put in the well, whatever you guys want to wear. If you want to wear the Jordan ones, cool. If you want to wear the Nike ones, cool.
Because it doesn't matter to you, because because if they're feeling good and they feel that they have some ownership, even in the classroom, choice is a really big thing. So every kid is going to write the argumentative essay, but you give them 10 choices on the topic rather than just telling them all of you are writing about this. There's some buy-in that they have. I'll do free seating sometimes if I think the kids have been working really hard. All right, you can sit where you'd like for today. And I think for some people, that's a tough thing to let go of control over certain things, but those are things that we don't need to control from my perspective. And it may not work for everybody.
Yep.
And then I talk about, not biting the hand that feeds you. And I said, if I just gave you this privilege and now you're acting irresponsibly or ungratefully, that privilege can be revoked.
Well, that happens every day in my household.
Well, yeah, because that's a talk that I imagine my brother and sister-in-law have to have quite a bit
we
too.
Had a great time at Disneyland.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden we get back here and, they're sitting down. Please eat. Right before you got here.
Yeah.
I don't know if Maddie was yelling when he
No,
got in there,
but CJ was eating his steak by himself.
Yeah, but that was a long, treacherous process to get him to eat.
Yeah.
And them to eat and not spill. You
Right.
saw the table draped in towels.
Oh, okay.
But it was like we just literally had the best weekend ever, and now you guys are really eat and take a shower and go to bed, so we can go to bed too. We're tired. We got 25,000 steps in yesterday, which is insane. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any of my own kids. After certain days of teaching and then coaching, and then when I go home and it's just me, I don't know if I had any energy left. And I've talked with people, and then my brother especially, he goes, "Oh, you learn that you don't need as much sleep, and you learn that when you hear your child cry, everything changes, and you just get up. Your body, your mind, there's something internal in you and I've felt it when I've hung out with my nephews, right? You kind of go into a mode where they're all that matters, and the lack of sleep doesn't even impact you, but that could be trying.
Yep. And that's why you can't get upset with parents either.
Right.
Because you're dealing with their most important thing.
Right.
And you just want to, most people want to be seen. They want to feel heard.
Yep.
And they want to be acknowledged, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think as coaches, we have to be okay with having those sort of things. The Pat Summit, the Bobby Knight level of coaching just is not really acceptable anymore.
No.
And I don't think it works anymore. But you have to be personable and open to, and I think our profession is one of the most we can't criticize the person behind this desk that we, or we might criticize them, but there's really no outlet to be able to talk about the server,
right?
Unless you want to write a Yelp review about, said restaurant,
right?
But you just have to be open to and have to have a short memory about some of this stuff, because some of this stuff is probably emotions and
And I shifted it. I actually thought of it more because when I talked even just with the top flight kids this year, I told all their families, I said, and it was funny because my brother is coaching my oldest nephew in basketball, and I was down there, and my brother, who's better at basketball than I am, and it is his son, and my nephew is 4. I still wanted to say something at my nephew during the game. He's 4. I mean, this game matters not in the slightest to anybody. And my brother, who I love and adore and admire, is the coach, and I still felt myself wanting to say something. So I told the parents that, and I said, of course you want to tell your kid to do something because you love your kid and you want your kid to be successful. And it's actually a positive thing when your kid messes up that they look to you because they know that you love them and you care.
Is that a positive thing?
I think it's a positive thing in general in life. Like if a kid messes up, they know that they can go to their parent, right? And that their parent will try and help them. What I said was it's actually not positive in basketball because you're not letting them work through the mistake. It's a positive thing, like your relationship. You've built a relationship of when my kid messes up, they know I'm not going to be angry. They know that I'm going to be there to support them.
I think it'd be a positive if the parent had a flat, if their body language
and that's
didn't
what I
show positive or negative,
right.
Nothing. If you just
address it, right? And that's what I told them. I said, but you're actually inhibiting your players' development because if anybody, they should look at their coach. If you mess up on an essay, you should look to your teacher for help. Or at times, sometimes I won't overcoach it and I won't call a timeout or bail you out because you just have to work through it. So I tried to say, though, it's a positive thing. It means you've developed a relationship, I think, of trust and love with your kid when they look to you when they mess up. But it's not positive if you try and correct it for them every time. So that was that's one thing that I think I'll take. I'll try and be more understanding. The longer I've been away from the game and the more, because I came in contact with a lot of parents as admin, many more than I did as a teacher or a coach. And so I also realized, I think I pride myself on giving a lot of kids grace, but I don't think I always gave parents the same grace as people because I don't know what they're going through either. And if I like teaching and coaching the kid, really that means the parents probably did a pretty darn good job raising these kids. And maybe they just need an outlet to come at me, and I'd rather have them come at another adult. But you can set firm boundaries too, and just things that, you don't discuss. That's one thing that new for me is I will discuss playing time, but the player needs to be present. I've done it before where I've met parents without the player present. And even as a teacher, when I have meetings, I really try and push for the kid to be there because oftentimes they're more realistic about their skills than their parents are. And they understand why they're not playing that much. And I think the kid does need to be involved because it's your kid's playing time, not yours. Yep. So that's one. But one I'm holding firm is I don't discuss coaching strategy or take input from families because then you're muddying the waters. I think the roles need to be a little bit more defined there.
Right. And I'm even thinking about potentially having 3 parent meetings throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
In the beginning, the middle, and leading up into the postseason, because we have to reset expectations. When you talk about playing time, and that's generally the only reason, not the only, but mostly, I would say a high percentage of times is when the child is not playing.
Correct.
That is where you find your issues. So if you consistently put in their mind that we only have 160 minutes and our team of 12 players can only play a certain amount of people, even the best team that we've ever had at Valley Christian, while I've been there, the 12th player got 10 minutes a game, which is
right. Yeah, not even a third of the game.
Not even a third of the game. And guess what? My parents weren't very happy. Now those were still high level players.
Yeah,
kids that could play in college, but they weren't happy about it. They're just not going to be happy about a lot of things.
Right.
And that's just we don't have enough. We're dealing with the situation where like, hey, we got to fill this basket, and we're basically overflowing with stuff to put in there.
Yeah.
And you can't squeeze it all in there. And we have a job that is next to impossible as far as appeasing everybody. Yep. But you have to just do what's right and do what's right for the team. If that means everybody plays on this team, great.
Yeah, that's
if
your
that
strategy.
means we're only playing 6 or 7, great. And you have to do what you think is best in that moment, because that's what leadership is. It's hard. It's leaders are in charge for a reason, but it's difficult. It's hard. You got to make decisions about other people.
Yeah.
And those other people are going to have feelings about whatever the decisions that you make. But you can go to sleep at night knowing that I made the best decision with the information that I had at that very point in time.
Yep.
And if I look back on it, would I go back and change it? Probably not. Would
Yeah.
I look at certain things differently? Yeah, I might.
Of course.
And new information is coming to the table, then yeah, I might look at it and be like, okay, yeah, I need to adjust my thought process on this. And that's where you have to take out your ego and be able to reciprocate whatever is being brought to you. The last part I'll make on that is the admin actually have some really good things, because they are dealing with parents a lot. And so Eshoff was talking about a lot of the parents at our school will go into his office or email him and say, hey, my kid deserves this grade because they worked really hard.
Yep. And
he has one of the best lines I've ever heard.
Oh, I'm ready.
It is, and I'll preface it by saying we at Valley Christian do not provide grades based on effort. If your son or daughter is able to understand the information and complete it at a high level or not a satisfactory level, they will earn the grade that they get.
Right.
We're not giving anything. This is what they earned. He said it a little bit better than I did, but I forget that because both of you guys are wordsmiths. There was something that I forgot, maybe because these bright lights are on me and I just
you walked 25,000 steps yesterday.
Did, yes. Yeah. So I forgot, but something along those terms.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, right? Because what we want to instill is a good work ethic, but then there also is, and I've told to players too, is you can give it everything you've got, and if another person is still better than you, it is a really bitter pill to swallow, but it's a really good life lesson to learn. Now in school, you can be a little bit more in the sense that effort can count because you can kind of pick up points here and there by doing certain things, but you can't fault a kid who finishes an essay in 15 minutes and crushes it and not give that person an A. And then a person who spent all week but did not hit the criteria, the academic criteria that needed to be met, because the assignment was the assignment.
Yeah.
Right. And playing time comes down to that too. Now, like you said, everybody, there's a base where you need to be at practice and you need to be working hard. Right. I don't know anybody who really will put in lazy players just because they're good. Right. So like everyone's coming and working hard. That's just the baseline. But if you're producing, you're producing in the classroom, in life and work. I think a lot of people have gone away from the idea of how many hours do you work. It's can you get this to me by Tuesday? And if it took you an hour, it took you an hour. If it took you 17, it took you 17.
Yep.
Right. So
and that's sports too, because every team practices every day.
Right.
Every team's got the same 2 hours. Everybody has a head coach. Every head coach is watching film.
Yeah.
And when you play that other team, if the other team just has better players, it don't matter what you did.
It doesn't matter.
It don't matter what you did, because the other team is just better. And then sometimes you're the better team. And then sometimes it's even. And then that's when the coaching really comes into play. Yep. So, yeah. So as we kind of wrap up, we've already been here an hour, 15 minutes.
Love it.
Anything else you got for the people?
I would say if you are interested in anything about being, I think we talked about being present, right? And I read a book recently called The Power of Now. So I would throw that out there. Eckhart Tolle, if you're ever interested in something about kind of grounding you and centering you into living in the moment, which a lot of people talk about, I'm trying to push myself to be more present. There's there's some odd parts to it because it's got some science and some psychology and self-help and all of that in there. But if anybody interested in kind of being more present, anything regarding the power of now, if you're interested in any podcast, I'd go Revisionist History. I think it's great with Malcolm Gladwell. And then Cautionary Tales is a really good one.
And Beyond the Buckets.
And Beyond the Buckets. And then one just like Beyond the Buckets, People I'd Mostly Admire is a really good one. So if you're trying to replace scrolling with something more productive, I'd go podcasts. And those are at the top of my list.
For sure. Who should be on the show that hasn't been on and you got to make the connection?
Oh, who should be on the show who has not been on and should make the connection? That is an interesting one. Has Eric Ostrovsky been on the show?
He has. Episode. He has been on the show. I don't know exactly what episode.
I might try and reach out to a former player of mine who's like now coaching, and maybe you can kind of dive into what that players learned through all seeing both sides of it now. That might do that.
2 lenses for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe even 3 or 4.
Yeah, a couple.
We'll see if this outro works. But
all right.
This was our show. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. We're going to see if this outro works because we're working a new system here. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.